Good morning, students. Welcome to the new session of biology class. We will start with the first chapter of first unit test syllabus. Lesson number 2, that is cell, the unit of life. So in this chapter, we will discuss about the cell and its organelles. But before that, we have to go through the background information regarding the cell. So first of all, as you know, what is a cell? Cell is the fundamental structural and functional unit of all living beings. That means all living organisms are made up of cells. Their body structure forms the cells. So we can say that it is the structural unit and functional unit because all the metabolic activities going on inside the human beings or all the living beings, or you can say all the functions which are performed inside the living body are performed by the cells. So we know that cells are called structural and functional unit of all living beings. Then we also know that these cells are capable of performing essential functions of the life and they have their independent existence. Every organ in our body like skin, brain, muscles, they are composed of thousands of cells. And this is about the animals. If we talk about the plants, the leaves, the flowers, the roots, all the structures, all the living organisms, whether it is single cell or it is a higher organism made up of multi-cells, all are made up of cells. Now you also know that all living organisms, including ourselves, start life as a single cell. We called it zygote. So this question is normally asked, name the single cell which starts the life, or the first cell which will form the life further. We will write zygote. In 8th class you have studied how zygote is formed. It is formed by the fusion of ovum, that is the female gamete, and when it is fertilized by the sperm, which is the male gamete. So basically this ovum is also a cell and sperm is also a cell, but they are haploid cells, and when they fuse they form zygote. Zygote will undergo then multiple divisions and it forms the embryo, then embryo fetus, and fetus ultimately the individual. So we can say that life starts from zygote, that is a single cell. Then after that in your book some information is given about the invention of microscopes. So few scientist names you need to remember. For example, the first microscope was discovered by Antony van Leeuwenhoek. So you can underline or you can simply write A.V. Leeuwenhoek. So he discovered the microscope with the help of a single biconvex lens and it was called simple microscope. And you can see in the picture, this is the front and the back. This was the microscope which he invented himself. Then after A.V. Leeuwenhoek, Robert Hooke, he also developed a microscope using two lenses. These two lenses were used to give greater magnification and it was called compound microscope. So you can see here, but nowadays we have a lot of advancement, or you can say we have the technology is too developed. So we have very good microscopes, but these were the earlier microscopes. One thing you also need to remember is that Robert Hooke was the first to discover the cells. But the cells which he saw under his own microscope were the cells of dead wood, that is cork. And that cork or the bark of the, you can say, the tree, that is made up of dead cells. Dead cells means without any nucleus and without any cytoplasm. So he just named those chambers as boxes. This is how he observed under microscope. You can see in this picture. So since he was not able to see any living organelles like cytoplasm, mitochondria, etc., he could only see the cell walls, and because these were the dead cells, so he called them cells. After that, invention of electron microscope. Now we know that whatever pictures drawn in your book are basically the images taken or captured by electron microscope, where beam of electrons is used to magnify the small organelles. Otherwise, you know that we cannot see the cells because they are microscopic. But this electron microscope can magnify the image up to 2000 times. Fine. So after this, next Matthias Schilden and Theodor Schwann. These two scientists, German scientists, we commonly or normally we call them Schilden and Schwann. Schilden and Schwann, they proposed a theory. Whatever observations they have recorded regarding the cells, they noted down and they gave a theory regarding the cell, which later came to be known as cell theory. So here they mentioned some of the points about the cell theory, and these points are as follows. Three major points. One is the cell is the smallest unit of structure of all the living beings. The cell is the unit of function of all the living beings, and all cells arise from pre-existing cells. Like we have just now studied that zygote, which is formed, which is the first living cell, is formed by the fusion of female and male gamete, that is ovum and sperm. So they are also cells. So we can say that cells always arise from pre-existing cells. So these were the three main postulates. Although there are many points, but you have to learn only these three which are given in your book. These three were the main postulates of the cell theory as given by Schilden and Schwann. Later on, Rudolf Virchow, another scientist, Rudolf Virchow, he proposed another point he added in this, that this is the cells arise from pre-existing cells. So again they have explained the theory of this cell theory, that is structural unit. Like he says that if we take any part of the frog, just an example, or any part of a tree, and you observe under microscope, you will see that they are made up of cells. So that means cells form the structural unit. Similarly, the functions. Now you can take any example. Functions can be movement of the cells, like when you move, your muscles contract, digestion of the food, or absorption of the food, or even suppose in case of plants, photosynthesis which is occurring. All such functions are performed by the cells. So we call it functional unit. Cells die and are replaced. Now there are many cells, they have particular lifespan, and after a particular period they are broken down in the body itself and new cells are formed on regular basis. So formation of these cells occurs from pre-existing cells, and this is a never-ending chain. All life starts as a single cell. The life of frog, the life of mango started. Now you can imagine a huge tree, but once this huge tree of mango was just a small little embryo made up of few cells inside the seed. Similarly, fertilized egg, one cell, and that formed the whole body of, let's say, an example of frog. So we can say that initially the life will start from single cell, and then cells will go on multiplying, new cells will be formed, and this is how growth and development will take place. Cells, how numerous? Larger an organism, greater is the number of cells in its body. So you can imagine a small ant and imagine the body of an elephant. So what will be the difference in their body? The difference will be number of cells. Elephant will have many cells, trillions and trillions of cells, and a small ant will have thousands of cells. Fine. Then single celled, their organisms can be single celled, like you all know some examples: bacteria, yeast, amoeba. They can be just few cells, made up of few cells, like Spirogyra and Volvox. These are the examples of algae. There are few cells, attached to each other. Okay, so we can say that cells can be unicellular, multicellular, or few celled also. Multicellular means made up of many cells. For example, all animals, all the tall plants. Then again you need to know the smallest cell. So please underline in your book, smallest cell are the bacteria cells, which measure from 0.3 to 5 micrometers, and red blood cells about 7 micrometers. Longest cell, you might be knowing, these are the nerve cells, and largest cell is the ostrich egg. Then they have explained smallness of cells, a greater efficiency. Why the cells are microscopic? Why they are so small? To explain this, they have given one figure over here, explanation. You can imagine, suppose this is one cube occupying a particular volume. Now this is only one cube, but in place of this, if we have small boxes, but you can now see that volume is same, but you can imagine how the surface area has increased. So the smallness of the cells is actually to increase the large surface area. More the surface area, more will be the functioning, or you can say efficiency of the cells will increase. So it is actually to have large surface area. Cells generally remain small in size. This is because of two reasons. One is their different regions of cells can communicate with each other rapidly for cell to function effectively. And secondly, they will have large surface area per volume. Volume will be less, but surface area will be more. And this way their efficiency will increase to a large extent. Now here in your book they have shown various types of cells just to make you familiar, like you might be knowing these are the epithelial cells. You have read in class 7th epithelial cells, which are basically which form the lining of all your organs. Like your skin is also made up of epithelial cells. These are cuboidal, columnar, flat. Then these are the blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets. Here the cells of cartilage, connective tissue which binds all the cell organs in between the body. Whatever the empty spaces, they fill up the spaces. These are made up of long fibers, elastin fibers, collagen and etc. Protein fibers. Okay, these are muscle fiber cells. Similarly, nerve cells, bone cell, muscle cells. So you can see the shape and the size. In case of plants, these are the stomata, guard cells. This is the cell amoeba. This is algae, Chlamydomonas, one example of algae. This is also unicellular. So you can see that according to the function, cells may vary in their shape. For example, white blood cells are amoeboid. Amoeboid, you can see here, means they can change their shape because they can come out of the blood vessels, like they squeeze out of the blood capillaries to engulf the germs. Nerve cells are long to conduct impulses. Muscle cells are contractile. They can pull or squeeze the parts. Guard cells of stomatal pore are bean shaped because they have to bulge out to open the stomata, and sometimes they will become flaccid to close the pores. So this is all about the general information which is given about the cells. Now we will come particularly to our chapter. The chapter is actually the structure of the cell. So in your lower classes, you have studied some organelles, cell organelles. Now this is a typical structure of an animal cell and a plant cell. So under normal microscope, when you will see, you will not be able to locate the organelles. What are organelles? These are the tiny living bodies which are lying, floating. Each cell has a fluid, we call it matrix. This is the matrix and we call it cytoplasm. And we can see some small organelles inside the cells. Under normal microscope, we can see only nucleus as a dark stained body. But under electron microscope, you can see the detailed structure. This one. This is of plant cell and this is of animal cell. So these diagrams you have to draw and practice. And now we will discuss about the cell organelles in the next video.